Good morning, televiewers of My Media Prime Television. Thank you so much for joining us once again on another edition of The Brief, live on this very channel, a program where we always get to dig several layers beneath the major headlines with our resource persons. On today's edition of the program, the newspapers are revisiting COVID gate, monies that were mismanaged, that were meant for the fight against COVID-19 in the country. This morning, the newspapers are focusing on that and equally how the money was managed. And the paper is, or some of those papers are vindicating the Minister of State, Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Ngongo. And we shall talk about that and many more in this edition of the program, especially the visit of members of the Bilingualism Commission to the Northwest and Southwest regions of the country, what they are saying regarding the situation of English and French as official languages being applied in those English-speaking regions of the country. Let's stay on and find out what Gladys Bomotongina gather for us in the French language newspapers. Bonjour Gladys.
Bonjour Lacha Kinsley et bonjour à vous. Merci de rester fidèle à Debris, votre émission bilingue de revue de presse sur My Media Prime Télévision. Mesdames, Messieurs, ce matin, nous débutons avec le journal La Nouvelle. Le journal La Nouvelle, ce matin, nous parle en exclusivité du mandat d'amener le secrétaire général à la présidence de la République, Ferdinand Ngongo. Le journal nous révèle ce matin qu'il s'agit d'une affaire classée. En effet, le secrétaire général à la présidence, Ferdinand Ngongo, a été reçu lundi dernier par le président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, pendant 1 heure. Objet de cette rencontre, sécurité sur l'étendue du territoire et organisation de la commémoration du 6 novembre prochain, rencontre des gouverneurs en vue de cet effet. À l'issue de la séance de travail, Paul Biya instruit donc le secrétaire général à la présidence de la République de poursuivre sereinement son travail et les enquêtes concernant la gestion calamiteuse des lignes 65 et 94. Les détails sont donc en page 2. Jusqu'à 4 du journal La Nouvelle ce matin. Mesdames, Messieurs, nous continuons avec le quotidien Réalité Plus. Le quotidien Réalité Plus nous parle en grand titre ici de fonds Covid Gate. Le président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, a donc créé la task force 1 an après que le Premier ministre a fini de repartir les 180 milliards de francs CFA entre les 24 administrations Ngongo et la task force n'ont déchargé aucun franc CFA dans cet argent, dans ces 180 milliards. C'est du moins ce que nous présente ce matin le quotidien Réalité Plus à sa page 2. Dans le même journal, à la page 4 jusqu'à 5, le journal nous parle du sonde des centres de gestion agréés. Le ministre des PME, Achille Basilican, mobilise donc tous les acteurs de Bafoussam. Mesdames, Messieurs, nous continuons ce matin avec le quotidien Émergence. Le quotidien Émergence nous amène à l'extrême nord Cameroun pour nous parler des inondations dans cette partie du pays. Le journal nous révèle en grand titre qu'une dizaine de morts a été enregistrée et 180 000 victimes dans cette partie du pays pour parler d'inondations à l'extrême nord Cameroun. Les détails sont en page 3 d'Émergence au quotidien ce matin. En page 2, le journal nous parle de centre de gestion agréé. Le MINMISA lance donc la 7e édition des caravanes de sensibilisation. L'événement a eu lieu à Bafoussam. C'est du moins l'information qui paraît ce matin dans Émergence au quotidien à sa page 2. En page 4, le journal nous parle de santé, pénurie de neurologues au Cameroun. C'est du moins l'information présentée ce matin par Émergence quotidien à sa page 4. Toujours en page 4, le journal Émergence nous parle de fer de Balam. Soudan annonce donc une nouvelle action en justice. Nous restons dans le même journal Émergence quotidien en page 11 qui nous parle de la Fédération sportive, élection du 5 novembre au 12 décembre 2022. Nous continuons, mesdames, messieurs, avec le journal Le Jour. Le journal Le Jour nous parle, lui, de choléra, le point dans 49 districts de santé au Cameroun, des contaminations dans certaines régions du Cameroun malgré l'approche du gouvernement œuvrant pour lutter contre cette maladie. Les détails sont en page 2 jusqu'à 4 du journal Le Jour ce matin. En page 5, le journal nous parle de la conférence de Serre d'Otola, la leçon de Théophile Obanga. C'est dans cette édition du journal Le Jour à sa page 5. Nous continuons, ou nous clôturons donc ce matin avec l'info à chaud. L'info à chaud ce matin parle en grand titre des droits d'auteur. Grève des artistes est donc prévue ce vendredi à Yaoundé. Résolution prise à l'issue d'une concertation présidée par Prince Dedi Eyango, président du RAMCA, mardi 25 octobre 2022 à Douala. Les détails sont en page 3 de l'info à chaud ce matin. Mesdames, Messieurs, voilà pour vos titres ce matin. En langue française, place à la découverte des titres en langue anglaise avec toi, Lasha Kinsley.
Thank you, Gladys Bomotongina. Thank you to televiewers of My Media Prime for staying tuned. Let's begin this morning with Echo News paper. Echo newspaper this morning is interested in what members of the Bilingualism Commission have said when it comes to the resolution of the Anglophone crisis, as well as the promotion of the two official languages. At CRTV Southwest Outdoor Program, Professor Njoma prefers 10 states to 2-state federation. She says those who lost power, influence, want the return to 1961 form of state. Professor Julius Ngo also clarifies on who is an Anglophone, as the question of who is an Anglophone has continued to be on the lips of many Cameroonians, as some Francophones who study English see themselves as Anglophones. And Professor Julius Ngo clarified that the debate recently as he gave the media outing. You can get full details of that story in this edition of Cameroon Echoes newspaper that you can find on newspaper stands or kiosk in the country this morning. Let's talk about this headline that has to do with Buea. Thousands of Cameroonians queue up to look for domestic cooking gas shortly after government disbursed or sent 1,012 kilograms cylinders to the southwest region of the country. So meaning Cameroonians out there in Buea turned out at the various sales points to get the domestic cooking gas shortly after government took the measure in sending over 1,012 kilograms cylinder to the southwest region of the country. On to municipal updates. Municipal updates newspaper this morning is telling us that to curb domestic gas scarcity in Buea, what I just told you, government has supplied over 1,000 bottles within hours, and the population turned out in their numbers in Buea chief town to get the domestic cooking gas, as per what municipal updates newspaper is telling us this morning. And still in the southwest region, in Manu division of the southwest, 4 children died in abandoned vehicle under unclear circumstances. These 4 children were found dead in an abandoned vehicle in Manfe in Manu division of the southwest region recently, and the circumstances surrounding their death are unclear. Get full details of that story as per municipal updates newspaper that investigations have been opened to find out what actually killed those children in that abandoned vehicles. On to the Guardian Post newspaper. The Guardian Post is also interested in the human interest story in Manfe that has to do with the death of 4 children. 4 children found dead in abandoned car. The town of Manfe, according to the paper, in Manu division of the southwest region, southwest region slipped into discomfort at sunrise yesterday following the discovery of the corpses of 4 children in an abandoned vehicle. The 4 children were discovered dead in an abandoned vehicle in Manfe, chief town of Manu division. We continue to talk other headlines. This time around we are talking about the move taken by the Gabonese government in Douala. Gabon entices investors with 6.25 interest rate on treasury bonds. The paper tells us further that the Gabonese government has launched the issuance of treasury bonds with worth 175 billion francs CFA with an interest rate of 6.25%. The bonds have 6-year maturity period on the financial market of the
Maksop region. The bonds issued by the public offering of the mineral richer country or Central African nation was launched during an official ceremony Monday, October 24 in Accra, Douala, here in the nation's economic capital of Cameroon. Thank you for watching Televias on My Media Prime. We are back in the studio to continue with our discussions this morning. Gladys.
Effectivement, nous recevons Maître Alex Ndive depuis Londres ce matin. Bonjour Maître, comment vous allez?
Good morning Gladys. Good morning Mr. Lasha. Good morning your producer Mr. Tebong, who is behind the scene. Good morning to the beautiful people of the Cameroons. It's always a pleasure to be on your program, the best program in the Cameroons that review the press. And sometimes I might intervene and give opinion as a leader of British Cameroon National Party. And my opinion or our political view or alternative, it has got nothing to do with hate. It's to scrutinize and hold the government into account.
And in same line, Maitre Alex Ndive, the opinion or the questions we to ask on this program, they don't represent us. When I talk us, I talk about Gladys Bomotongina, myself, and the entire team. That the questions we ask, we only ask to seek answers. Let's dive straight into some of those major headlines that the newspapers are reviewing this morning or bringing to us. We begin with the Le Quotidien Réalité Plus, which is apparently vindicating the Minister of State Secretary General, the Presidency, Ferdinand Gongo, when it comes to the management of COVID-19 money. We are talking about over 180 billion francs CFA that were mismanaged. And this time around, the paper is telling us that President Paul Biya took the decision to create the task force when he realized that the money he gave Diongute to share to ministers were not well managed. And this time around, the blame is being channeled towards Diongute to have shared the money, giving the money to 24 ministers who in turn mismanaged the money. And so Ferdinand Gongo, as per Le Quotidien Réalité Plus, has got nothing to do with the COVID-19 money, the 180 billion francs CFA.
Yes, Mr. Lasha, I'll begin by telling you that a newspaper is not a court of law. A newspaper is a paper writing about something. Secretary General Mr. Ngongo have got mouth. He can speak. And again, we have the police, the judicial police. We have the court of law. If something have happened, it's not up to the judiciary. It's not up to the referee to referee himself. So we have a court of law. They should call the police in the country to intervene, investigate the matter, question the people who or the alleged accused, and come out with a decision. Secondly,
newspaper also carry out newspaper also carry out investigation, and as per what Le Quotidien is saying, the paper carried out an investigation and discovered that President Paul Biya only created the task force 1 year after the 180 billion francs CFA had been distributed to 24 ministers by Diongute.
Yes, as I say, I'm not denying the fact that the paper carried an investigation. Because Maitre Alex Lisinge carried out an investigation, it doesn't mean that we should stop how a state is supposed to function. Where there is an alleged crime or somebody have committed an offense, the police must intervene. There should be an investigation. And again, I'm so disappointed that every time.
Oh, Gladys, we've lost Maitre Alex. The lines these days are not really the best. We're talking about Ngongo. Apparently, Diongute is the one to pay now, as per what that newspaper is saying, shifting of blames.
La réalité ici, c'est qu'on se pose la question de savoir qui sont donc ces 24 ministres. C'est aussi simple que ça. Qu'on sorte la liste des 24 ministres.
Mais il y a le ministre de la Santé publique. On ne doit même pas douter. Les noms, c'est clair.
Qu'on sorte dans la liste des 24 ministres qui ont reçu cet argent.
Those are the ministries concerned with the fight against COVID-19.
Oui.
The Ministry of Basic, Higher and Secondary Education.
C'est simple, Mr. Lacha. Plus que depuis hier, le problème de Covid-Gate était sur le dos du secrétaire général à la présidence de la République, Ferdinand Gongo. Aujourd'hui, voilà, aujourd'hui, on se rend compte que il a été blanchi, du moins ce que nous présente ce matin le quotidien Réalité Plus. La balle est retournée.
C'est la pure sorcellerie.
Voilà.
Que les gens pensent et croient que c'est Gongo qui a mangé les 180 milliards.
La balle est retournée.
Qui ont mangé
la balle est retournée vers le Premier ministre qui, lui, maintenant, doit nous fournir dans la liste de ces 24 ministres qui ont reçu cet argent. Et ces 24 ministres pourront nous dire comment est-ce qu'ils ont géré
les 180
milliards.
Before you went off, just move on from where you stopped.
We said Mr. Biya created something.
Yes.
Cameroon is the only country that we talk about one person. In all democracy, when we talk about a cabinet, which a cabinet is a body of high-ranking state officials, typical of the executive branch, they sit and make collective decisions. So do Mr. Biya sit alone?
No, but how far are you sure? How far are you sure he does not consult his close collaborators?
No, we're not talking about Mr. Lasha. I know how to run a country. When you run a country, you have your ministers and their top run officials. And we should know what is happening rather. We should know that Mr. Biya have called a cabinet office meeting. They have made a decision to commit a fact. One person cannot run a country. I don't think there's one person who is more intelligent than an entire country. So you see the way they present things to us in the public. You can tell that it's not Mr. Biya. They have delegated a signature. These people are writing things to please themselves. Because it doesn't matter whether you're the most intelligent person on earth. You work, you take decision collectively. And let me tell you something. I'm not talking precisely on Mr. Ngongo. This is how they operate in Cameroon. They created the task. You have to give 40%. And when you give those 40%, there is no evidence. So you give those things to department that they have to give you money. That's how it works. And there is no evidence. If you're used to it, Minister of Finance, 40%, we all know about that. So we cannot say they created a task and they give this money. If they created a task, let them come out and put it in the public. Let them give the newspaper how they spend the money on COVID. That's what we want to know. That's transparency. It doesn't suffice for them to just tell us that they created this department. We want accountability. Let an accountant come in and search and do things and come up with the balance sheet and say, this is what this task force did, this is what they did. Then I will believe them. We cannot just come and play to the gallery and write to a newspaper. It doesn't work that way. Newspaper, they have their duty.
But this same Gongo,
the judiciary, the executive and the legislative, they have their own function.
Maitre, this same Gongo we are talking about has been heard multiple times at the Judicial Police, Supreme State Audit and other structures. It was alleged, newspapers were reporting that he appeared before those institutions to answer questions.
Mr. Lasha, we get away with a lot of things in Cameroon is that even government officials, they brief the newspaper. That's not how we should be running a country. When there's an allegation, Mr. Ngongo can come to the press, answer questions to the press can write to Mr. Ngongo, this is what you have done, ABC, please can you explain about this allegation? If Mr. Ngongo doesn't reply within a reasonable period, the newspaper should put it on the front page. It's 1 month, it's 6 months, we have written to this man, he hasn't answered, then the public will be able to draw an inference in what is happening. That's what we need to see. Sometimes journalists, they should write to the presidency, and if they don't reply within a reasonable period, the public will be able to make their decision that they have no answer. And we can conclude that they have embezzled the money if they cannot answer us. These people must be accountable to the public. It is very important. I've never seen a country where the people who are running the country, they think they are more sovereign than the sovereign people when the constitution of the Cameroon stated quite clearly that the people are sovereign.
Maitre, apparently it is Diongute that has to pay now, as per what we as. If the investigation of la réalité or réalité, le quotidien réalité plus is okay, is correct, then it means that Diongute should be the one to answer, not Ngongo.
My point is, to be honest, I always tell you, they always say Diongute is head of government. We all know that he's not the head of government. I would love Mr. Diongute to come and tell me one minister that he appointed in his government. So we know that he's just heading something, and this is what I always call, they put the Anglophones to kill themselves. This is what is going on. We keep on seeing today one of your paper, Madame Dorothy Joman, Professor Victor Ngo. Each time we complain, we blame the French Francophone. But the people who are killing us are the Anglophones who are egocentric. They put them at the helm to talk, to be the pilot, the driver, while the people who are pulling the strings are behind. So I will say that PM Diongute, I don't see how, as they call him Anglophone Prime Minister, but he's a Prime Minister of the Cameroons. He's not an Anglophone Prime Minister. He works for the entire country. So I don't see he's not of any help. The point is, we have a Ministry of Health. All that money would have gone through the Department of Health. I don't see why the Prime Minister will come and get involved. The presidency will get involved. Anything that concerns money, concerns budget, everything comes inside. So that is why we don't understand, or this is what encourage embezzlement in our country. Because everybody try to get into department that does not concern them.
Maître Alex, le journal La Nouvelle ce matin aussi parle de cette histoire de Ferdinand Ngongo. Mais la question que je voudrais vous poser, c'est quelle est cette affinité entre Ferdinand Ngongo et le président de la République? Parce que le journal nous présente ce matin un Ferdinand Ngongo qui, au lieu d'être entendu peut-être par les forces armées, par la sécurité camerounaise, il s'est plutôt fait écouter par le président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, pendant 1 heure de temps.
You are saying that what is the difference between the relationship between Mr. Ngongo and President Paul Biya, taking into consideration what the newspaper is saying? Is that your question?
Yes. Instead of President Paul Biya trying to, send security agent or whatever institution after Ngongo, he has received Ngongo and has given him more, further jobs to go and carry out the execution.
Yesterday, I made it clear on your program that the presidency has been hijacked. It's not Mr. Biya ruling Cameroon.
Who is ruling Cameroon? Who are the people ruling Cameroon?
I saw the Queen of England, Mr. Lacha. The Queen of England was 90-year-old, strolling about. Even one day before she passed away, we saw the Queen of England.
Mais comment est-ce qu'ils sont rentrés en conclave et puis les Camerounais n'ont aucune image de cette réunion entre le président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, et son secrétaire général, pour parler d'une histoire aussi sensible?
I'm just saying, listen, the Constitution of Cameroon talks about incapacitated. I'm not afraid to say it. I have a right, as a citizen who was born in that country, to say that Mr. Biya is incapacitated. I'm not insulting Mr. Biya. It's an allegation. And at the end of the day, the Constitution could procedure. We have people like Kamto, who was my lecturer. We have other professors and other opposition political parties. They are accomplices to what is happening in the Cameroon. If you don't see your president for 1 day, 2 days, we don't need to see him over TV. We want to see him in flesh and blood. And when they keep quiet, they are part of it. The Constitution of Cameroon is clear. If I have doubt that Mr. Biya is incapacitated, I'm not insulting him. I wish I could live like Mr. Biya. It's a privilege. It's that somebody should live up to the age of 90. When it comes to that one, I always say, when I'm on your program, I'm not talking about Mr. Biya as a private person who have a right of family life. I'm talking about Mr. Biya as head of state of the country. To me, personally, as leader of British Cameroon National Party, I have my view that Mr. Biya is incapacitated and it's people like Mr. Ngongo who are running the country.
Donc, vous voulez nous faire comprendre, Maître Alex, que c'est le secrétaire général Ferdinand Ngongo qui lui-même a décidé de ne pas se faire entendre par la police judiciaire et a décidé de faire croire qu'il a été reçu par le président de la République?
Who is the head of the police force? Who is the head of the military? It's the Mr. Biya. And if Mr. Ngongo is performing the duty of the President of the Republic, then he's the boss. So the police, they don't have more power. He can fire them. He can appoint another person. So we should not try to be hiding between what is happening in Cameroon. The government of Cameroon, they know what I'm saying, Mr. Bia. I'm not standing here to make any libelous or defamatory thing about Mr. Bia. In any democracy, or if, let me go even in your home, if every day you're with your dad and your mother, you don't see them for one day, won't you be concerned? They don't need to show us Mr. Bia over the TV. What happened on 20th May this year was a call of concern. Mr. Bia disappeared to Europe. Nobody told us why he was going to Europe. Then again, instead of them showing us Mr. Bia during 20th May, when he was walking, they were showing us the sky and building in Yaoundé. We have to question it. He is our president.
Maitre, when you say what we have to question is somebody of his age and somebody who has done a lot for his country, as per what members of his ruling party they are saying. Don't you think that he deserves that respect of not being questioned when it comes to age?
The problem is, it's not about the ruling party. When you are a ruling party, you rule in the interest of the entire country. We must put the country first, not the party.
So when you look at his age,
the party first.
You may want to agree. You may want to agree with other Cameroonians that the duties he used to carry 10, 15 years ago, he can no longer do those things now. Reason why he's delegating some powers to his close collaborators.
You just made, that's the definition of incapacitated. When you're not able to do the duty that you used to do, it means you're incapacitated. So you just define it. So if you are not able to carry your function, the president of a republic is a very important job. It's about life and death.
So why do Cameroonians continue to vote for him if he is not fit for the job?
Mr. Lasha, when you say why do Cameroonians keep on voting for him, I will tell you, in all France, Afrique country, there is no election, is just whitewash, is window dressing exercise.
Mais Maître Alex, si c'est juste du folklore, pourquoi dire aux Camerounais de s'inscrire sur les listes et aller voter si tout ça ne sert à rien?
I always encourage people, go and register to vote, but sometimes you have to see the truth die. What happened, we already know the result in 2025. There's other alternative, how you can remove people like dictators, but I won't say it on your program. But if you only want to count, I will still encourage people, go and register. But I can write, Gladys, I can write who is going to win the next election. I can tell you 2025, I say keep it in your wallet. Open it after the election. You will see, and the same result will come out. We have been seeing this thing happening from Togo, father to son, Gabon, father to son, Zaire, father to son, Chad, father to son. It's francophonie. It's their way. It's their modus operandi. That's how they operate. Nothing will change if the people don't look and go to it today. Stand there legally and protest and say, we want to see Mr. Bia.
Mais Maître Alex, comment on proteste légalement si on ne vous donne pas l'autorisation de protester?
That's why I said legally. I just use the word. So you can always protest. And sometimes when people are hungry, I saw in France they were protesting against the cost of living. Sometimes there's just a protest that the people just get into the street, because I saw what is happening in Cameroon. I was born there. I saw people scrambling to buy gas. My sister called me yesterday. They had just one gas bottle in Yaoundé, and it's got, is it this stove? How can we be living in that situation? When I was born in Boyan, I've never lived in such a humiliating situation in my life. After more than 40 years, this is what the people of the Cameroons are going through, and they accept such a thing, that it is normal. We should not be using gas bottle anymore in the Cameroons. We must have advanced by then, but we are still going backwards. And we accept it because we don't understand. We don't know we have constitutional right to tell the government that enough is enough.
Ok, Maître Alex, parlons à présent d'autre chose. On a ici le responsable de la communication de la CNPS qui a été limogé après avoir apporté des propos jugés diffamatoires contre le professeur Maurice Kamto.
I did not get that question clearly.
He's talking about
Somebody...
an official at the National Insurance Fund that has been dismissed after he brought defamatory information against Maurice Kamto.
You see, I don't have detail. Oh, I'm sure I read something like that. But what surprises me is that how do you dismiss somebody? One, the way it works in the UK, there's an employment tribunal in this country. If somebody does something, you have to investigate it. You have to call the person in a disciplinary committee. Then you see if the person have done something that's very fatal. You don't just dismiss people like that. It might be constructive dismissal. And there's first warning, second warning. I don't know the history of that man. You see, in the Cameroons, we politicize everything. Maybe the person got it wrong. And I'm sure to dismiss somebody just because the person said Mr. Maurice Kamto is not paying national insurance contribution, I think it's too harsh for that person. I think the person should look for legal advice and take the necessary action.
Yes, Maitre Alex, let's talk about Dr. Christopher Fominyon. That is recounting his role in impacting democracy in Africa. What do you have to say when you look at the works of Dr. Christopher Fominyon when it comes to democracy in Africa?
Yeah, I know Dr. Fominyon. I remember some years before the Anglophone problem, he came to the UK to launch his book. Was it about Cameroon of tomorrow? And I was one of the speakers. I respect Dr. Fominyon, but the ideology he had on the Cameroon of tomorrow, that's not my style. My concern, what he's doing is a good job. He's doing a charitable job. But over the time, over the years, I'm not too much of a fan of window dressing democracy. If you look at the institution where he's working at in the United States of America, they come only to supervise election in Africa, mostly in Africa. And when you go to Africa, you supervise what has democracy done in Africa. Why do they not go to Saudi Arabia? Why do they not go to Qatar, Kuwait, all those countries? Look how beautiful those countries they are, where there's no democracy. So democracy in Africa is whitewash. They supervise, somebody wins. It's about guaranteeing dictators in Africa. President Obama once said, winning election doesn't end there. That's not democracy. There's more to do after you win an election. So they supervise election in Africa. What happens? I do admire to some extent these Arab countries. They don't have democracy. They have democracy instead. It's just that their democracy is different from African democracy. China have democracy, but it's different from Western democracy. The Arab, they have parliament. The king have a prime minister who runs the parliament. It's just that the king is a monarch. The king remains there. They have their own way of democracy. What concerns me only in the Arab countries is that they don't respect women's rights and other things, but they are more democratic than African countries. That is why they are developing the country. To me, African democracy, I don't need it. What we need at the moment is development and recognize the indigenes of Africa, rather than the majority suppressing other people. So what Dr. Fominyon is doing is good, but I don't see how that have helped Africans. I don't see how we develop because of elections. Election is not good enough. We need more than elections. We need the people, the local people, to start running their own things, rather than example A2D, telling people what to do. The people are competent enough. Our local people have got the knowledge, they have got the brains to run their own things. They have the brains to collect their own tax and run things locally. That's how you run the country. Gaddafi was a dictator. He was giving money in all the clans in his country to the clans like tribes. Take the money, develop your own area, and that's why Libya was so developed.
Ok, Maître Alex, alors parlons maintenant du choléra, la résurgence du choléra au Cameroun. Le journal Le Jour nous en parle ce matin. Et il faut préciser que l'Organisation mondiale de la santé a précisé que le monde entier est en manque de vaccins contre le choléra. Comment est-ce que le Cameroun va arriver à résoudre ce problème?
I will still go back here in my days when I was young in Boya. I'm surprised that we are still talking about cholera, because cholera is about cleanliness, clean water, hygiene, and what that's cholera. When I was a young boy, even almost baby in Boya, we have what we call sanitary. This sanitary, they come inside your house, they inspect your toilet, everything. But the institution, the Amadou Tanteh regime have destroyed it. I'm not going to talk much about this. To solve the problem of cholera, when we don't have clean water, what do you expect? When I was growing up, there was clean water. How old am I now? Why are we going backwards? Why is the law of diminishing marginal return facing our country? Because the government have got no plan. You plan when there's population increase. You have to look and say, okay, in 50 years' time, the population is going to be ABC. The government doesn't do that. We are still using the same resources, the same products that we were using 50 years ago. So that's why we have this problem, and we are now facing the law of diminishing marginal returns.
Mais Maître Alex, il ne s'agit pas uniquement du Cameroun, parce que l'Organisation mondiale de la santé a précisé qu'il n'y a plus assez de vaccins préventifs contre le choléra. Donc c'est une situation qui touche plusieurs pays, pas uniquement le Cameroun.
I would prefer a sanitary, as I said, than World Health Organization. I don't rely on people who are far away, who are not on the scene. The sanitary that we used to have, they were there. If we have this sanitary, if we make sure that our hygiene are properly checked, we don't need World Health Organization, we don't need the vaccine. And again, we don't make our malaria, we don't make those vaccines. We don't make COVID vaccine, malaria vaccine. We keep on going around begging. Where are our scientists? Where are people who have technical know-how? We don't have them in Cameroon. After more than 60 years of Amadou Tanteh regime, we have Institut Pasteur. What is Institut Pasteur that was created in France in 1888? Those are the people trying to help us. Indirectly, we are still living under a colonial government, but they have put choke ice coconut to be there, to be ruling us.
Okay, thank you, Maitre Alex. Let's now talk about the route in Ndive, who has said that she prefers 10 states federation to 2 states federation. And he says that those who are clamoring for the return of 1961 kind of form of state are people who lost power.
To be honest, Mr. Lasha, I'm so disappointed when I say, one, before I lay hand on any so-called francophones in Cameroon, the Anglophones are the problem. The Anglophones are the one causing the Anglophone problem. I'll tell you why I say so. Madame Dorothy Njoma studied genetics and embryology. That's what she studied. Professor, is it Victor Ngo? He's a historian. A historian is somebody who do research, analysis, and write about the past historical event by doing research in documents and sources. That's Professor Victor Ngo's job. These people are intervening in a field that they don't know anything about it. That's my concern. Madame Dorothy Njoma, Professor Victor Ngo, they belong to a political party called CPDM. As the CPDM got a manifesto, why are they the one talking? When you look at the 10-state federation, who created these 10 states? We used to have 7 provinces. Mr. Biya changed it and created 3 more regions in the French part of the Cameroon. So why is it that we don't have more regions in Northwest and Southwest? Let me tell you something. What is the population of Northwest region? It's about 2 million. The population of Southwest region is about 1.7 million. What is the population of South region? 700 and something million. So why do they have a region? So why do they talk about region? Region, Mr. Lansha, if I should tell you, is just a geographical location. You cannot draft a constitution by looking at regions. You look at the homogeneous nature of the people, which means the same kind, likeness. You look at the heterogeneous nature, which means diversity. Do the people of former British and Cameroon, which they call them Northwest and Southwest today, Do they have a homogeneous culture? The answer is yes. So that's how you draft a constitution. We have the same legal system. We have the same educational system. We have the same form of government. We used to have parliamentary form of government. Civil liberty, the same policing.
No, Maitre, when you say no, Maitre.
Let me learn. It's important.
Yes, land. I will still ask you the question.
The French part of Cameroon, they have homogeneous culture. So when you draft a country, you don't look at artificial creation. If you go all over the world, you talk about when they are looking about devolution, decentralization, or form of a state. They look at Scottish people. They don't look at Northwest and Southwest. They look at English people. They don't look at Northwest and Southwest. They look at Irish people. You go to France too, it's French people, German people.
Okay, Maitre, when you say the people of the Northwest, when you say the people of the Northwest and Southwest, when you say the people, when you say the people of the Northwest and Southwest have homogeneous culture, that might be misleading because many people, you want to tell me, let me not say many people, are you telling me that somebody,
you did not allow me to
somebody from the Northwest,
you did not allow me to learn, I was getting there. If you would have allowed me to finish my question.
You want to tell me that somebody from the Northwest region identifies himself more with somebody from the Southwest region than somebody from the West region?
When we talk about, if you allow me to learn, you understand me, and our audience, they are listening to us, and I'm sure they really want to know what I'm talking about. I was speaking about two folds. The first fold was that country, Cameroon, was created by inherited culture, two culture. That's the first part of it. The English side and the French side. That's what I'm saying. And what? They have French institution, which you allow me to learn, which I've spoken about it. I will make it for our audience who are joining us today. What we are using in the French part of Cameroon, we are using ENAM, which was inherited in France in 1945. That's their institution in France. They are using École Normale Supérieure, which was inherited from France in 1794. That's their institution. Military Tribunal, that was inherited from France in 1793. And the other institution, that's what I'm talking about. They are using it. That's French institution. Fine. But the problem we have now, the English part to have their own institution, which is different. They are imposing it. I'll give you an example. NASLA. They are imposing NASLA. That's a NAM translator. You don't need to translate other things that you inherited. That's the first fault of our problem. When ENAM was enacted in former British Cameroon, was it in 1959? Former British Cameroon was not part of them. When Gendarme, which was created in France in 1791, they put it in the French part of Cameroon, were not part of them. When École Normale Supérieure was
Maitre, let's take you have been saying so. You have been saying all those things.
Let me go to my second part of my
question. Talk about the homogeneous nature. Let's talk about the homogeneous nature. Yes.
We have similar culture in the stem of institution and how the country was formed. That's the first part. The second part now, we have customary laws, all of us. The people of Saw, the people of Balinyonga, Betty people, we have it. The next part now, this equal status that the English part have to have equal status with the French, we have to practice our tradition and custom, which we are doing now as I speak. And what British Cameroon National Party says ethnocultural democracy means, decentralization have to focus in all the tribes. That's the second part of what we are trying, how we are trying to fix the Cameroon. We are who we are. A Banso man, a man from Bambalam, a man from Mayemen, a Bulu man, a man from Giziga, they have their own. So it's a twofold. The first fold is the country was created by foreigners, Rio dos Camaros, under two parts. So we have that two-part equal status. English institution in the former British Cameroon, French institution in the former French.
So what they are saying is that what they are saying is that what Dorothy Njioma is saying, Professor Dorothy Njioma is saying, is not right. Will not solve the problem that Cameroon has.
It won't solve it because as a Bakore man, I don't see myself like a Southwesterner. I've never been to Manfi. I don't know their culture. I don't know anything. One, I want Fako to be a region inside these two equal status. I don't want Fako to be Southwest, Northwest. We have our own culture. So I want Fako, as I told you, why is it that Mr. Biya created South region, which that's where Mr. Biya came from? The population is only about 700 something. Why Northwest region with 2 million, Southwest 1.7 million. Why do they not have more regions too? Region is just for administrative purpose. You don't need to use region to draft a constitution. I will tell you, look at the people who are talking. When you see constitutional lecturers, like my lecturers, which are like Bibimum Jean-Marie, they are constitutional experts in the Cameroon. Joseph Owona, constitutional expert in the Cameroon. Professor Professor Kuncho, constitutional expert. Do you hear them talk? No. These are the people who talk. My lecturer who is lecturing other things in law in Guakele, Osmos Cheka, Prime Minister John Gute, Dorothy Njoma, they are the one talking. Ephraim Guafo. They don't know anything about constitutional law. And if they are CPDM, they should put it in their manifesto and stand for election next time that they want 10th State Federation. British National Party will be standing for election as equal status. French institution in French part of Cameroon, English institution in English part of Cameroon, then decentralization in all the ethnicity, it will solve the problem. Is that some people want to sit in a today and keep on controlling people and keep on selling our wealth to foreign countries? It is never ever gonna work. We should stop beating around the bush. If Dorothy Njoma, a civil servant politician, Professor Victor Ngo, a civil servant politician, Madame Njoma said in the Guardian that people indigenous from Fako, they are what? Greedy. Madame Njoma, you are also greedy because you are not putting the country first. You are putting your party first.
Thank you, Maitre. Thank you for coming. Thank you, televiewers. On My Media Prime Television, we are ending the program this morning, and of course, it was produced by Christain Tebong. We were Gladys Bomotongina and myself, Lasha Kingsley. See you tomorrow with more on what the papers have said in Cameroon. Bye-bye.